Welcome everybody to Flowering Creativity bonus content. We got some more with Kyle Walz. So, Kyle, why don't you tell me briefly about your musical influences?
Musical influences. Well, I've been playing guitar off and on since I was 4, which is like 40. Wait, no. Yeah, hold on. 43 years. I always
Wow,
forget
cool.
how old I am. I know. I wish could be cool enough to say back in the 70s I was playing, but yeah, guitar has ranged from in St. Louis growing up, there's a famous hard rock station. So it's like hard classic rock, like that 70s sound. That was huge. Then, of course, I found punk and metal, alternative in the 90s. And then I started to take a break for a while from playing a lot of music. And what I got back into is all classical and some jazz. And of course, then I kind of branched back into my roots and started playing some other stuff. And I did have a 4 video series on YouTube about my guitar influences. But musically, there's a whole lot more in guitar. But there you get some focus.
Cool. Yeah, a lot more details in those videos. Make sure you guys check them out.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I like about your channel too is that you'll do like a separate video where you talk about like the song. Like I watched one today where you were talking about your new song for your album, and then at the end you gave like an analysis of the lyrics, and it was kind of insightful. I mean, I wasn't really paying that much attention. I was just grooving along. I'm like, yeah, I like the way Kyle interprets this bluesy 60s kind of, rockabilly blues kind of thing. I liked it. But
Yeah.
I thought it needed some saxophone. But I'm telling you that.
Says every sex player.
Oh, dude, come on, you gotta admit, saxophone's awesome. We have to do a
Oh
collab
yeah.
at some point.
We should, yeah.
Definitely. So,
But
I found you on YouTube. So, how do you promote your YouTube channel to attain your goals?
okay, there's an extremely nerdy answer to this. I realized during quarantine, the most of the planets at home and stuff. And I would see these people talking about, hey, let's network and grow your channel and stuff. And I realized pretty quick that those are just people trying to promote their own channel. I mean, no offense to anybody, that does that, because that's cool to do what you're doing. But what struck me is when you're at the whim of somebody's algorithm, you lose. So I made my own algorithm. I have my own way of what I do. With and in short, it's I would see that it's really easy to spend a lot of extra time promoting yourself on social media and connecting, networking, doing all those things you're supposed to do. And I just figured out a way to make it really efficient, so I can spend more time being creative. So one thing we mentioned in a regular video, how can you manage different things and have a balance? So to be a little bit more specific, I'm always looking to connect with people. The aspect of social network is that social dynamic. But then more so, it's more, I always approach it like I'm doing something for you in the hopes, big fat, finger crossing hopes here, that you do something back for me too. And like on YouTube, it's like, hey, I'm subscribing to you. I'm leaving a comment about your video, not about some other stuff that has nothing to do with your video. And hope that you do that too, and that's kind of cool. And I call that the YouTube handshake, So sorry if that's a little too nerdy or something, but
No. That's good.
Yeah.
I started when I was gaining I needed to gain subscribers faster than I was gaining organically at the time. So I started doing this networking thing where it was like a sub for sub, and first of all, that's against YouTube's policy, so I don't recommend that. At least when it's that's stated as the intent of both parties. But anyway, what I found out was that the algorithm was going and subtracting my subscribers. To be clear, I gained over 1,500 subscribers in the last year, but YouTube plucked over 300 of them away from me. And I'm sure that YouTube plucked me away from other people, even though I did not once hit the unsubscribe button to one person. I guarantee that if for whatever reason I just didn't watch enough of their content
Well, and that's why I made my own algorithm, because I'm thinking it's like, okay, I was horrible at math at school, but I realized later on as an adult, teaching myself programming, I can't do algebra to save my life. Like if you brought my mom back and say, dude, your mom will live another 10 years if you can do this, linear algebra problem. I'm gonna say, I'm so sorry, mom, I can't save you, and like I said, I'm bad with mom jokes. But if it was an abstract algebra, like if you put me in a situation and said, hey, can you program an abelian ring to solve this part? I was like, oh yeah, that's easy. And I don't know why I'm able
Mhm.
to think like that. But anyway, yeah, the idea of making my own algorithm. I should send you an email about the stuff I do sometime. But
I settled into basically the same philosophy as what you said, like more of a sort of a pay it forward kind of thing. I just like, well, if I
yeah,
like your music, I'll just sub to you and I'll leave you a comment. And if you never check my channel out, I'm not going to unsub to you. The next time I see a video from your channel that looks good to me, I'm going to watch it. And like one of the things that I try to do is I try to stay to the end when I click on a YouTube video. I try to
yeah,
watch the whole video because that really helps the person. It helps even more than giving it a thumb up. If you watch the whole
right,
video, it really helps the channel.
yeah, yeah. That's a whole. We could talk on that for hours, I'm sure.
Sure.
Because you talked about like subscribers, and when was it, like in August when they started like one of the great purges of this year subscribers?
Hmm.
Because I looked, and it's like over this year I gained like 6,000 subscribers, and I
Hmm.
started like January 1 I had 159, and now I
Wow,
have
awesome.
3,000 some. But it's like I've gained like three, or this year it's like 6,000 something, but then like almost 4,000 of them have unsubscribed. It's like I
Hmm.
can't believe there's that many fake accounts, and like what you're talking about, like this whole idea that they're like administratively removing people. So anyway,
Hmm.
like to combat that, I just had my own way of keeping track of all that stuff, and that helps me promote and grow, and I can be very, very targeted too. And I can even say like, hey, these types of channels I do really well with,
Hmm.
and that's kind of cool to have that level of demographic information, because that's, you know, it's helpful.
Right on. So, do you have any advice to help someone that wants to start their own creative business or endeavor?
Mm. Yeah, learn how to plan, number one. Number two, learn how to sell, or figure out a way to like save enough money to pay somebody to teach you or sell you, because
Hmm.
I have done so many like little creative projects, like '02 or so I started a software company for something related to educational standards,
Hmm.
and I built some really awesome elaborate tools that no one else has made yet.
Hmm.
But I suck at selling things,
Yeah, it's
and
hard.
like it's so hard. And
Hmm.
because like we talked a lot in the video about being authentic and organic and stuff, and to me, for whatever reason, I just feel like when I go into sales mode, I am not being either of
Hmm.
those things. I'm being so purposeful and kind of superficial. But that being said, if you want to really, do something creative for business, you really need that plan. You really
Hmm.
need to know where you're going. Former student of mine, he gives lessons, and he always says, you could drive from St. Louis to LA without a map, but
Hmm.
if you had a map, you can get there a lot more efficiently than if you didn't. I thought that was a pretty cool way to put it. And
Hmm.
then learn how to sell, and that's something I'm working on. How can
Hmm.
I'm spending like 120 hours a month on YouTube.
Hmm.
How can I, get about the same as I get for a gig for that,
Hmm.
because, I could do, you know, I don't know. I'm trying not to get into the nuts and bolts too much in there, but that would be my
Hmm.
suggestion. Plan, sell.
Right on. It's one of the most frustrating things for me about music business has always
Yeah.
been that you're expected. or someone to sell you. So not only do you have to be the musician, but you also have to be the entertainer, and then you also have to be the manager. So it's kind of like
Exactly.
when you're a solo musician artist booking a solo show, which I have done for many years, just like you, in various forms and incarnations. The selling myself was always for me the most difficult part too, because it's like, okay, I'm an artist, I'm not a businessman, but yet there is an
Right.
art to being a businessman as well. And so when I said everyone, has creativity, I mean, a creative business plan. I mean, that counts. Like, you know,
Yeah.
anything creative counts, right? So,
Yeah.
and really, we're creative beings. We're co-creating this existence, and so pretty much everything we do ultimately is creative. Um,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Here's a question to kind of throw out there,
Sure.
and sometimes I've noticed, like, especially working like on YouTube and
Mm-hmm.
talking about money and business and the arts, is I often get criticism
Mm-hmm.
from, because like the European culture is very different when it comes to art as a
Mm-hmm.
commodity
Mm-hmm.
or creativity as a business. Where here as America, we're like, hey man, we we're gonna hustle, man. We're gonna make something work. Where like, and have you ever experienced like some of that kind of cultural, like not understanding why you're wanting to make money with
Mm-hmm.
your creativity or
Oh
your
yeah.
art?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's such an interesting
It's
something
fun.
we could
Do it
talk
for
about for another couple
free.
hours. Is Yeah, it's like, I can't eat free.
All
I'm
this
not,
great
fortunately I
exposure.
have a day job. Oh yeah.
All this
It's
great
like,
exposure you're
hey,
gonna get.
yeah, it's like, you play a couple gigs free and I'll start paying you. It's like, yeah, yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I had the same conversation in the bonus content with Aaron Q Man last month. It's like, for me, it's like I I do not do well with an EPK, getting people to download it, even listen to it. It just gets
Yeah,
stuck in a pile that never gets listened to. They probably have 30 EPKs they never even looked at. Whatever. I'm maybe making some
yeah,
excuses, but my point is, I can find out real fast if I got a gig if I can get a manager to sit down and listen to me for 30 minutes. If if,
yeah,
if they're going to keep working and flight around and not listen to me, I'll know right then and there my chances of getting the gig aren't that great, unless maybe a bartender or somebody else there, maybe the crowd, puts in a really good word for me, and then I end up getting
yeah,
it. But like so many times I will go and I would do an audition and the manager just isn't present, and then I know it's like, okay, this is not probably going to turn into money. But if I can get that manager to sit down and listen to me for even 30
right,
minutes, I'm getting the gig. If they're sitting there having a drink and, hey, what do you think of this guy? And then they're like, oh yeah, he's great. Oh man, I love him. I'm in. So
yeah,
I'll do like one set for free at a place, period. And that's it. And then after that, if they want me, okay, look, dude, first
yeah,
of all, you're not hiring me to advertise. You have to advertise, and I will share your advertisements and spread it, but you're not hiring me to bring people in. You're hiring me to
yeah,
entertain your crowd. And so that's what I'm going to focus on, right? And if they don't want to agree to that, then that's not the kind of place for me, because I am not a marketing consulting company to get 100 people in this bar.
right,
That's not me. I am the person that I will sing and play saxophone and keep those people that are there, or maybe lure people in from outside if they have a speaker outside, or if I'm playing outside, lure people to the patio, right? That's how, and that's why I don't
right,
mind going and doing the in person audition one time, because I know that's how I'm going to sell it.
right.
I mean, because I'm not a salesman.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess tapping back into one of the previous questions, um, I worked with a tour booker for, he did like almost 3 tours. COVID kind of got in the way of the third one, but learning from someone else
Mm-hmm.
how to navigate the kind of business transaction, and that has helped me tremendously locally, because I approach every venue because I learned that when you are trying to book yourself out of state, there's kind of a different protocol. There's different kind of details and things that you should mention. And I just kind of took the idea like, I'm going to book every gig as if it's out of state. And what helped me, because I book probably 95% like through email or messages, something in some sort of writing. But I always have people locally saying, wow, when we talk to you, the level of detail and thoroughness that you have is very, very different than other people doing what you do. And whenever they, we set up like future dates or something comes up, I stand out for them for that reason. And that's kind of a neat aspect too. Like, because I mean, a lot of times creative people, sometimes deservedly, a lot of times not get that kind of what's the word, the reputation of being goofballs. Here I am, I'm forgetting the word.
Sure.
But if you can be a goofball on the mic, get the people in, like you're talking about, play something, make people have fun, share that energy, and when you're done, you had that business transaction, you're right to the point, you set up a future date, you do all this stuff, and they're like, hey, you stand out. And that's a very simple thing that, I see a lot of musicians and other creatives really struggle with, thinking like, oh, I don't need to do that. It's like, and like you're talking about, it's like you wear all the hats.
You got
It
to be
is
able to run
on
sound
you.
too. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
I forgot to mention that because, dude, that is extremely important. That is
Oh,
extreme. I do not
definitely.
want to freaking I have to underscore that. You have to not only be able to sell, perform, and entertain. You have to be able to run sound too.
You know what? I've been so lucky. I bought. Well, I need to use the right word. Invest. I invested in like the cheap Bose system.
Hmm.
And so running sound with that has been like the simplest thing ever,
Sure.
because all you got to do is make it louder or make it not so loud. And people always, like venue owners and stuff, because I'll play like restaurants and things
Hmm.
like that.
Hmm.
They always remark, it's like, you are the best at not being too loud.
Yep, that's crucial.
It's like we can,
Hmm.
yeah, it's like we can conduct business. The patrons come in, they can place their orders. They're not yelling and looking at the speaker with hate, like, why is this so loud? It's like,
Yep.
you're heard, we feel the music, but we can still talk.
Yep. And I
You
mean,
know,
as a
like,
saxophone player, right?
yeah,
Sometimes I have to whisper with no mic. Sometimes I can play my ass off with a mic, and
yeah,
sometimes I have to whisper with a mic. And there's just different feels in different places. You know,
yeah.
and
Oh,
like, yeah, playing tenor saxophone in a restaurant where they
yeah,
want to be able to have a conversation at the bar just like we're having without the music interfering at all. That's a great seasoning technique, man. I did that for
yeah,
years.
yeah. Do we have time for a real quick story about whispering on the mic?
Sure,
I love
man.
this. Okay, so um, because I'm not a real loud dude, when I play somewhere, I always have my mic really loud.
Mm.
And so then, I can be close to it. And so there's an open mic. And to compensate for that, I'll get right up on the mic and like whisper, because, as a teacher, instead of yelling at people, be quiet, the thing is, try whispering and, bring it down low. So then people are
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, what's going on? So anyway, at an
Mm-hmm.
open mic, in between songs, I kind of whispered what the song was about. I was like, hey, here's the backstory. And I was being all blanky feeling, I felt like I was just, and so after I played, I was sitting talking to some friends, and this lady came up as she was leaving, and she like put her arm on me. That's kind of hung on me, and she kind of whispered in my ear, you are so sexy when you whisper. I was like, what's going on? it's like I don't know if I should do that every time or never do that again, because it
Mm-hmm.
was just a funny thing, because I'm not used to someone coming out and being that blatant, like, hey, check you out. That is, that was so funny to me.
Totally. Well, that's one of the things I like about your vocal style is that you sing expressively, but you don't really sing real heavy. Like
Yeah,
most of your songs, the vocals are kind of light and airy, and that kind of is like the trend now. It's actually, and you're doing a lot of like rock and like post rock stuff where mixing in some electronic elements, but then like I said, some of the rockabilly ish kind of stuff too. And I liked your sound
yeah,
on the blues, man. Definitely cool. I just
cool.
I love songwriting so much. And, you know, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. Since I put my rock opera out in 2016 from my
Yeah,
distributor, I've made under $3 in royalties from it.
yeah.
So, I
Welcome to
understand.
music.
It's hard. I mean, I sold some downloads and, whatever, but not, my point is
Yeah,
from the streams, less than $3. That includes YouTube too.
yeah. Oh man, the only release that I mean, usually I make my, my music money, 94% of my music money is gigs,
Yep,
and I have to work real hard, like right now, doing pre-sales on an album, and I'm trying so hard with today's world of distancing to try to break even sometime within the first month. The last album I did within like a week and a half, I broke even.
that's good.
But anyway, it was I lost my train. I brought that up and I was like, wait a second, what was I talking about?
I know where you're
Um,
going. In such uncertain economic times, how have you enabled yourself to stay creative and working while so many others are struggling?
oh man. Um, yeah, it's weird. I guess because teaching, I see kids and I mean, across the spectrum, having way too much to having like near nothing, being homeless, and I know that they're living in a car. I mean, you have this whole wide spectrum, and in a weird way, it's very you kind of learn to like sidestep a lot of those things. Like, I mean, yeah, you're compassionate, yeah, you care, yeah, you're trying to think of how you can do stuff, but then when it comes to you and things that you're fortunate for are things that you have, it's a weird divide, and that's something. And I know a lot of people that, like doctors, even though I'm not anywhere near like something like that, but that idea of the doctor patient relationship, much like the teacher student relationship, you learn like a different context for things like what you're asking about in the question. And that's, and usually when people ask me, and like I said before, I'm weird anyway. I mean, I always have an unusual take for the most part on stuff. So like a question like that, I always kind of go like, I don't want to seem like a jerk or something, and then I start getting way introspective because I don't. I mean, it's like an overload of compassion, but then a complete different reassignment of passion. I don't know if that makes any sense. That contrast there.
Well, we're both
So
similar in the sense
ah,
that both of us were gigging and needed something to replace that.
oh yeah,
And
that's
then
where
when
the
the
question was.
pandemic hit, you know, both of us focused on our YouTubes, and as a
Yeah,
result, that YouTube has got amazing growth. But that hasn't turned into much of a gig. Although
money. Yeah.
I will say it took me 2 days of ads to make my first dollar on YouTube. So just
Cool.
to give you an idea, it
Awesome.
starts really slow.
Yeah. Well, for me, I mean, I guess I could give a short, the short version. I can't monetize on YouTube, so for
Hmm.
me, it's
What do you mean you can't?
Patreon or nothing. Um,
How is you
okay,
can't?
I ran a website for my dad like 18 years ago, and he's old.
Hmm.
I mean, that's not being mean; it's just being accurate. He paid.
You're the youngest.
Yes, yeah,
Hmm. Hmm.
yeah, by many years.
Hmm.
So anyway, I was running a website and I saw it had a huge spike in traffic from a certain part of the world known for not legitimate traffic hits. And so I talked to my dad. I was like, "Hey, this is there any way that there's a new factory for this equipment?" And he's like, "Oh no, I did this. $50 for 5,000 hits and clicks a day for 5 days. I'm like, Dad, don't, why didn't you talk to me? And so I had a conversation with them, and it was like a day or two later, I got the email because I had Google Ads on the site at the time. And I got the email that, I was banned for life essentially from Google. I wasn't sure if that would still stick with me. But I can't even appeal, to let them know, hey, here's this thing happened. It wasn't even me. It's like, I'll admit, this is what happened. I'm not trying to game Google, but that's the deal. And it's really annoying. And in
Wow.
all honesty, I thought a few times about just quitting YouTube because I was just really, really super bummed out.
Have you
Not
hit the
and
4,000 hours of view time? Because I know that was
Oh
really
yeah.
hard for me at first.
Yeah. Uh After a while, it the view time went pretty quick. I was getting like, I don't know, but between like 50 and 120 hours a day or so.
Good.
Um, yeah, I know things were really cranking along there. But then I don't know when, but I could go off on that tangent for quite a while. But and so I was trying to thinking more about your original question. Since I'm fortunate I have a day job, and I'm taking this time and thinking, I can retire in 3 years. Can I replace 50-60% of my live gigging income with something online? And so I mentioned, I made, I had my own algorithm. I actually made a website because it works quicker on my Chromebook than if I use a spreadsheet. I'm thinking it's like, okay, Patreon. I'm thinking of some other things I can do. And the general advice, if you're doing something creative, you need to think of multiple income streams,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and then think of like micro payments, like kind of like the ad model. You pay $10 a day, you set your little slider, but then you're paying like, so many cents for each ad. And likewise, all the people, you know, presenting these ads that the companies are making the money on and giving you a share, you're getting all these slices of pennies. And it's
Mm-hmm.
really difficult sometimes to think about. It's like, well, where can I get some pennies from to get a slice of?
Yeah.
And that's a very tough thing. But I'm thinking, hey, I got some time to figure out. What's funny is, with all this going on, I had been posting on Patreon or so once a week or so. And I decided, hey, I need to really allocate my resources I had on Patreon somewhere else. I made a post, didn't have any patrons. I made a post like, hey, I'm, hitting a pause button on Patreon sometime in the future. Within a couple hours, I had my first patron. And it was like, that was just a very funny thing to me. And of course, I messaged and said, hey, I noticed that you saw, so I, had a conversation to say, hey, there's something cool you like, let me know. I'll try to, and they're like, hey, you just keep doing stuff. When you get more patrons, I'll be here waiting. And I thought that was a pretty cool thing.
Cool.
So
Yeah. I
yeah, so
mean,
I have 4 patrons now. So
that's cool. I have three. Just starting out small,
right
And
on.
this is
Yeah.
for you guys, man. And we really appreciate you giving your time and your treasure to us. Sharing your hard work and funding creativity and music. Because, okay, I do not want to be a whiner, but dude, it's almost impossible to conclude the show without talking about how music may have been the hardest, all the performing arts. I don't want to just say
Yeah.
just music, but since I'm a musician, right? It's been so hard hit. Like, we don't even know when Guns N' Roses is going to be able to do a concert again. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? We don't even know. I mean, like, it's insane. These people that have
Yeah.
been touring their whole lives, we don't know if we're ever going to get to see. I mean, we will eventually, I'm assuming, but I mean, what it's going to look like to be able to go to a concert again, or to be able to perform a
Yeah.
concert again, or even to do an outdoor restaurant right now is off the table for me, you
Right.
know?
Well, and if you think about like the changes in the changes in the movie industry,
Yo.
how instead of releasing movies to theaters, now they're doing the private streaming, like a private service like HBO or whatever. I mean, the I always look at stuff like that because it seems like music is always the last to kind of evolve business
Mm-hmm.
wise or something like that.
Kind
And
of.
I'm very curious to see how, you know, musicians reaching somebody because I mean, I don't look at other musicians as competition. I look at other media types as competition,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what's so hard. Because I'll see like kids at school. I have a guitar in the classroom, and we'll pick it up, and they look at it like it's the oldest, most stupidest thing ever. And they're like, can you put an 808 on that? Where are the hi-hats? And so, and then I'll start playing some Billie Eilish songs or something like that, to just kind of play along with that idea.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, so much about music it's interesting the way that music is evolving for young people,
Mm-hmm.
and it's such a vital part of young culture, but it's so ridiculously, almost indescribably different than it was for like us. I mean, yeah, it's the same. You listen to stuff, you get that feeling, that energy, you get that sense of identity, through what these artists are doing. And what I always find interesting is like when I was growing up, you had people like ZZ Top, Quiet Riot, Def Leppard, some of those, 80s bands like that. Um, and if you didn't like that stuff, you at least heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can love this artist that is very very independent financially with their creations, and no one has heard of them
Mm-hmm.
besides like a small group of people. And to me, that is so exciting. I'm pretty sure I'll never attain that, but the idea that I could, that is, as the kids would say, that's super dope. I mean, that's such a cool aspect. That um you mentioned the influence series. It seems like the great conclusion I made out of looking at guitar influences over 4 decades is I love how the internet brought down the barrier of accessibility.
Yeah.
I mean, I love like the punk shows, late 80s, early 90s, going to see a band, you buy their vinyl, you got their sweat on you. I mean, they jumped in the pit with you. I mean, that was a whole different ride, a whole different experience, as opposed to like seeing Aerosmith. It's like, oh, I see that guy on that stage and the music is really reverberating and loud,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to this like almost one-on-one experience. And I love that idea that, I mean, just like us talking. I mean, dude, like listening to you play music and stuff and thinking about stuff you do, that is cool to me. And likewise, I'm sure you probably throw that right back on me. It's like, well, hey, it's cool for me too.
Mm-hmm.
But I love these types of things because it's so easier to do this now than what it's ever been in history. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's a really rich topic to me. I could write a dissertation on that, I think.
Oh,
So
dude, yeah, we could totally just go on and on for the whole night, man. Totally, and
I know it's
it'll be a nightmare to edit all this, man.
I know our wives and family are going, when are you done?
Yeah, I gotta cook dinner here soon. But it's really really great having you, Kyle. You've just been so knowledgeable and fun, and it's just been such a
Thanks.
great time. So everybody, make sure. If you're one of my Patreons, make sure you check out Kyle Walz. You can check out his Patreon, see what he's got going on, and we really appreciate you guys giving us your donation monthly. It means the world to us, and
Yeah, thank you guys.
it's so important for us because it gives us like hope of like that. Yes, we can build something because
Yeah.
we need money. It sucks to say it. It's but we do. We need money, and so thank you so much for every single dollar that you have given us. And thank you. We'll see you guys next month on Flowering Creativity bonus content. Thank you,
All
Kyle.
right. Thank you, man.
All right.